The dirty dog boy. That's what it means.
For years, Cesar Millan was the calm, confident force behind the world's most chaotic canines. But behind the leash and camera smiles, a storm was brewing. One that nearly broke the dog whisperer himself.
And then my heart went into, I don't deserve love. And then my mind is...
After his quiet exit from the spotlight following a painful divorce, fans were left with questions, rumors, and a silence louder than any bark. Now, after more than a decade of staying tight-lipped, Milan is finally ready to speak. And what he shares isn't just about heartbreak. It's about transformation, redemption, and a truth far more raw than his TV persona ever showed. From his darkest hours to a new light that's reshaped his life and legacy, you won't believe what really happened behind closed doors. This isn't just a comeback, it's the confession we never expected. Stick around. You're about to hear Cesar Millan like never before. Cesar Millan's marriage. Cesar Millan married Illusion Wilson in 1994, and their relationship spanned over 16 years, during which they raised two sons, Andre and Calvin. Illusion played a significant role not only in Milan's personal life, but also in his professional world, helping him establish and grow his brand in the early stages of his career. However, behind the scenes, the marriage faced its share of struggles. In 2010, Illusion filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Their divorce was finalized that same year and came at an especially difficult time for Milan. Earlier that year, he had also suffered the devastating loss of his beloved pit bull, Daddy, who was not only a trusted companion, but also an integral part of his training work and television persona. The emotional weight of losing a pet and his long-term marriage within such a short period triggered one of the darkest phases in Milan's life. In later interviews and his own writings, Cesar Milan opened up about the emotional toll that this period had on him. He revealed that he fell into a deep depression and even attempted self-harm shortly after the divorce was finalized. The emotional pain, he said, made him question his purpose and value, despite his ongoing professional success. During this vulnerable time, he took a step back from the spotlight to focus on his mental health and personal healing. Therapy became a crucial part of his recovery, along with the unwavering support of his two sons. Millan also credited his work with dogs as a powerful source of therapy, explaining that the discipline and emotional balance required in dog training helped anchor him during that stormy period. This chapter of his life marked a significant internal transformation, as he learned to confront emotional trauma while continuing to meet the demands of a public career. Milan's personal rehabilitation attracted him to Jair Dar, a Dominican-born former wardrobe consultant and stylist, in 2010. Their bond waxed stronger, becoming a constant almost in Milan's life. Slowly, with escalated dating and appearing with Milan at public events and red carpet appearances, she introduced their pairing softly into the public eye. Milan oftentimes credited Jaira for being a grounding force during his emotional rebuilding, describing her as kind, understanding, and supportive. Over time, she also became involved with all fronts of Milan's business ventures and public image. In a fairly private profile, Jaira was kept by Milan in interviews where he directed praises toward her as a positive influence in his life, often calling her his peace and balance after a long emotional struggle. In April 2016, Cesar Milan proposed to Jaira Dar during a romantic getaway to Greece, later publicly sharing the moment with his fans and followers. This engagement symbolized a new dawn on his personal horizon, closing a chapter of grief and opening a new one filled with love and companionship. It truly was a moment of the heart, Milan explained, which put together the essence of our whole journey together and a big testament to the support she has given me through my darkest hours. The couple have not announced any wedding date yet, but they are still together, constantly giving glimpses of their lives through media appearances and social posts. To Millan, the engagement was, of course, a romantic milestone, but symbolized much more as a testament to emotional strength and recovery, the ability to love again after loss. With Jahira, Milan was bound for a partner and co-pilot for a new phase of his life filled with healing, emotional maturity, and everlasting love. But behind the scenes of this new love story was a man quietly rebuilding himself, piece by piece. Personal growth and healing after heartbreak. Cesar Milan's divorce in 2010 was not just a personal setback, it was a life-altering emotional crisis that deeply impacted his mental health. That year marked a convergence of devastating events for Millan, as he also lost his cherished pit bull daddy in February, a dog he often referred to as his right-hand man, and a vital figure in his dog training work. These dual losses, his long-term marriage and his trusted canine companion, left Millan in a state of emotional despair. In his autobiography and later interviews, Millan revealed that the pain was so severe that he attempted self-harm by overdosing on medication shortly after his wife filed for divorce. He was hospitalized and survived the attempt, a moment that became a wake-up call for him to take charge of his mental health and start the long journey toward healing. After surviving that critical period, Millan began to prioritize self-care and emotional growth. He openly acknowledged that he had neglected his own well-being for years, focusing heavily on building his career while suppressing personal issues. The near-tragic experience forced him into self-reflection and led him to seek professional therapy, something he had previously avoided. Therapy helped him unpack not just the trauma of his divorce, but also reminiscences from a childhood spent growing up in poverty in Mexico, his migration journey, and the pressures that came with his stardom. This allowed him to enter into an introspective period when he would eventually have to confront long-standing insecurities and gaps in an emotional blind spot, gradually leading him to emerge a more balanced and grounded individual. For his own therapy, Millan did not just have himself privately forever. Now, Millan became very public in the issues relating to his renewed emotional consciousness, but rather infused that self-honesty into his public work. He became vocal about issues such as that of mental health and the importance of them, especially in men, how being stable and calm emotionally are required not just for dealing with other human beings, but also for dealing with dogs. His hallmark idea of calm, assertive energy, which he had used for working with dogs, became more meaningful and deep since now applying that same principle in actual everyday life with way more authenticity. Millan talked about his emotional healing in interviews and public speaking events, using his own story as a great motivator for everybody currently in their moment of suffering, emphasizing that the mark of real strength is often to be found in vulnerability and willingness to ask for help when needed. Giving back, philanthropy, and positive influence. Cesar Millan's personal struggles not only reshaped his internal life, but also reinforced his commitment to giving back to the community, especially through his lifelong passion, dogs. In 2007, he established the Cesar Millan Foundation, later rebranded as the Cesar Millan Pack Project and eventually returning to its original name. The foundation was created to support animal rescue efforts, promote responsible pet ownership, and provide education and resources to underserved communities. Milan recognized that many dog behavioral issues stem from a lack of understanding and resources among pet owners. His foundation bridges those gaps by providing education, funding for rescue organizations, and training tools for pet parents in the U.S. and abroad. Through these efforts, Milan has made himself out to be more than just a television personality. Rather, he has become an advocate for systemic change in animal welfare. Some of the Foundation's most impactful initiatives involve helping military veterans with PTSD and working on this cause very much in the open. He often refers to the healing powers that dogs possess, stating how canine companions give emotional support, structure, and a sense of purpose for those people dealing with trauma. Milan has worked alongside organizations that pair veterans with service or rescue dogs, and in doing so, they create mutually beneficial bonds that assist with recovery and reintegration. These programs are supported by his foundation financially and through training assistance to assure success for both the veterans and the dogs. This work is very personal for Millan. He relates the emotional struggles of the veterans he helps back to his own, thereby reinforcing the belief that dogs are a powerful catalyst for emotional healing and strengthened resilience. Other than working with veterans, Millan has kept himself busy in rescue and rehabilitation projects for dogs that have been abused or neglected, often taking in some of the toughest of cases through his dog psychology center. Originally in Los Angeles, the center was later moved to Santa Clarita, California, which now rehabilitates dogs with serious behavioral issues. Many of these dogs are classified as unadoptable, with reasons including aggression and trauma. But Milan and his team intensively retrain and socialize them for potential rehoming. The relationship with the center and his foundation allows Milan to partner with shelters and rescue groups to lower euthanasia rates and give difficult dogs a second chance. He also uses these rehabilitation stories in all his media appearances and training workshops to promote public understanding of the power of patience, leadership, and understanding. But while Millan's efforts to give back earned him praise, not everyone in the dog training world saw his methods the same way. Training controversies and industry criticism. While Cesar Millan has gained worldwide fame for his charismatic approach to dog training, his methods have also attracted significant criticism from animal behavior experts, veterinarians, and advocacy organizations. Central to the controversy is Millan's use of what he calls calm assertive energy, and his emphasis on establishing the human as the pack leader through dominance-based techniques. These methods often involve physical corrections such as leash jerks, taps, and what he terms alpha rolls, where a dog is forced into a submissive position. While many dog owners have praised Millan for producing seemingly quick behavioral turnarounds, critics argue that these techniques are outdated, potentially harmful, and based on flawed interpretations of canine behavior, particularly the long-debunked concept of the wolf-pack dominance hierarchy in domestic dogs. There are public condemnations for some aspects of Millan's training style by ASPCA, American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. The ASPCA asserted that punishment-based methods create fear, anxiety, or even aggression in dogs and therefore emphasize positive reinforcement techniques instead. PETA has taken it a step further, condemning Millan for promoting cruelty in the name of discipline. These organizations claim that his televised methods could inadvertently cause untrained viewers to try similar interventions at home, potentially injuring or otherwise emotionally damaging their pets. Despite such criticisms, Millan argues that he's misunderstood and that his methods intend to reestablish balance and harmony between dog and owner, not to hurt or frighten them. Besides the criticism by professionals, Millan has experienced several high-profile incidents of legal and public scrutiny. Especially notable were the protests lodged by animal rights activists and veterinary behaviorists in 2006 against the airing of an episode of Dog Whisperer, in which Millan was shown to apply aversive techniques to a dog named Shadow.
Cesar Milan, known globally as the Dog Whisperer, built a name through his calm assertive training style and his hit TV series Dog Whisperer with Cesar Milan, which aired from 2004 to 2012.
The indignation continued for the events of 2016 when a pit bull mix named Simon was shown injuring a pig on Cesar 911. The edited scenes ignited public outcry, prompting an investigation by the Los Angeles County Animal Control. Although the investigation subsequently closed without charges, the incident fueled concerns about animal welfare on Millan sets and the dangers of using responsive animals in staged rehabilitation scenarios. Those episodes perpetuated discussion around the ethicality of his methods. Cesar Millan's response to accusations. Cesar Millan has consistently defended his training philosophy in the face of criticism, standing by his core principle of calm assertive energy. He believes that dogs mirror the emotional energy of their human companions and that many behavioral issues stem from a lack of consistent leadership and emotional stability in the owner. Milan has repeatedly explained in interviews and books that his goal is not to dominate or punish dogs, but to guide them into a balanced state through calm, confident human behavior. In his view, structure, boundaries, and clear communication are essential for a healthy dog-owner relationship. He has said that critics often misunderstand or misrepresent his methods because they focus on isolated moments or fail to consider the context and severity of the behavior he's addressing, particularly when working with dangerous or aggressive dogs. Milan's response to all the criticisms hurled at him was probably most intensely pronounced soon after the 2016 pig-biting incident of Cesar 911, which attracted wide media coverage and backlash. After the airing of the episode and the formal investigation initiated by Los Angeles County Animal Control, Milan appeared in media, including TMZ and Access Hollywood, to state his case. Milan explained that the pig used in the episode was already being exposed to dogs in a controlled environment meant to investigate and rectify the aggressive dog's response. He explained that the intent of the pig, mind you, was rehabilitation, not provocation, that the injury was incidental, and he sincerely stood by their editing of the segment to reflect the progress made and that animal safety was a priority in filming. The case was thrown out at the end of the investigation, affirming that indeed he was right and no laws were broken. Milan has publicly stated that he uses compassionate methods to rehabilitate dogs, training people only about the techniques and philosophy he agrees with. Milan says that his methods are effective for the specific instances he considers, particularly when working with dogs traumatized, neglected, or exhibiting severe aggression. According to Milan, in interviews with Larry King Live, Oprah Winfrey, and National Geographic, his critics seem to disregard many success stories and dramatic transformations achieved with his methods, and he is frustrated by that. Milan further insists that his philosophy is much more than control. It is emotional balance, respect, and communication. Believe it or not, he has gone ahead and said that he does not actually train dogs. He rehabilitates dogs and trains people. Public perception. Cesar Millan has developed a strong and loyal fan base over the years, largely due to the visibility and success of his television shows like Dog Whisperer with Cesar Milan, Cesar 911, and Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. Dog Whisperer, which aired from 2004 to 2012 on the National Geographic Channel, was an international success, broadcast in more than 80 countries and reaching millions of viewers. The show consistently ranked highly in its time slot and helped transform Millan into a household name. His confident demeanor, charismatic personality, and seemingly quick turnarounds with troubled dogs resonated with a wide audience, many of whom credit him with improving or even saving their dogs' lives. On social media platforms, Millan maintains millions of followers, and he continues to receive praise in the form of fan testimonials, comments, and engagement on posts related to dog training and emotional wellness. Many professionals in animal behavior and veterinary medicine have been very public in their approach of Millan for much of his career, which, at least in part, can be interpreted as an attempt to detract from his popularity. Critics assert that the dominance theory underpinning Millan's training style is increasingly being rejected by behavioral scientists, much of which has now become an article of faith in his credit or condemnation. In the last 20 years, a number of studies, mostly by Dr. Ian Dunbar, Dr. Sophia Yin, and the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, AVSAB, have provided evidence that more reliable and humane results arise from training conducted in the absence of force and based on reward, rather than from dominance and/or punishment. These researchers also place much of the authority behind suppressing behavior symptoms, as might be the case with Milan, because he does not assess or rectify underlying emotional causes. Techniques may exacerbate stress in some dogs, even possibly triggering aggression. This division represents an affront to many dog academicians and thus is a major reason why Milan is regarded as a divisive figure in the industry. Milan's popularity with the general dog-owning public has withstood almost all attempts to tarnish it. Most viewers felt empowered by Milan's accessible explanations and confident tone to put his methods into action with their dogs, especially in aggression, anxiety, or disobedient situations. His followers often feel drawn to his personal story as a Mexican immigrant who built a worldwide brand from scratch, with Milan presenting the perspective of energy, leadership, and discipline. These tend to resonate with many who want clarity and structure in their approaches to dog ownership. To many of his supporters, the results speak louder than the science. Milan's shows often exaggerate dramatic before and after moments, displaying what seems to be effective behavioral turnarounds within short timeframes. To viewers unfamiliar with competing techniques or the subtleties of canine psychology, this adds to the perception that he is effective. Love him or question him, there's no denying Cesar Millan left a permanent paw print on the world stage. Legacy of the Dog Whisperer. Cesar Millan's legacy as the Dog Whisperer is deeply ingrained in both popular culture and the modern dog training world.
I honestly believe that a dog has the secret of how to live a happy life. Dogs live in the moment.
His breakthrough television series, Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan, which aired from 2004 to 2012 on the National Geographic Channel, was a global success and introduced millions of viewers to his training philosophy. The show was syndicated in over 80 countries and translated into multiple languages, making Milan a recognizable figure across the world. Following its success, he launched additional series including Cesar 911, Leader of the Pack, and most recently Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog on National Geographic and Disney+. These shows not only showcased his dog rehabilitation methods, but also emphasized the emotional connection between dogs and their human companions, helping popularize the idea that dog behavior reflects the energy and leadership provided by their owners. Millan has also manufactured a number of best-selling books besides television, and these include the titles Cesar's Way, 2006, Be the Pack Leader, 2007, and How to Raise the Perfect Dog, 2009. All these books have been sold out, running into millions of copies, translated into several languages as if to further affirm his stature as a thought leader in the field. Through these publications, Milan would teach readers about the consistency, discipline, and calm energy that every dog owner should mold with their pets. His message further popularized such terms as pack leader and calm assertive energy, which, although contested by some behaviorists, have been accepted artfully by most dog owners looking for structure in training. The language seeped into daily parlance where dog whisperer became a term for anyone thought to have an almost intuitive ability to work with dogs. Milan's impact extends into a proliferation of dog training programs and content on different media platforms, creating room for entertainment within which dog behavior has been presented. Some trainers appropriated his ideas, others contrasted themselves with his dominance-based model, and all these paved the way for important arguments on humane training techniques. Regardless of the position held by anyone, however, the presence of Millan forced the dog training industry into the limelight and made dog psychology a hot topic. Indeed, his legacy is many-sided. Some parts shine with admiration, while others are shadowed by arguments that cannot be denied. It helped take canine training out of a small field and straight into a global conversation, insisting that pet owners do a better job of understanding their animals while raising questions for professionals and the public about how humans should shape canine behavior. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as eye-opening as we did, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more untold stories and deep dives. Want more? Click on the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss what's coming next. See you there.